Hello everyone, welcome to UPSC PYQ Navigator. Let's trace how UPSC thinks one question at a time. In this series, we don't just solve previous year questions, we dissect them. We look at what's being tested, how topics have evolved over the years, and how UPSC might frame it next. Each question is a clue, and together they reveal a pattern. Today, we are discussing the 2024 Prelims Polity questions. We will cover the 10 years PYQ so you can get the crux of it. So let's dive in today's questions and see what it's really telling us. The first question is, how many delimitation commissions have been constituted by the government of India till December 2023? So what we are going to do here is, guys, we will firstly identify the keywords in the question. Like here we have delimitation commission as the keyword. So when we are discussing, when we are actually analyzing, we don't just just see what is the right answer. We don't just do that. We see what is the keyword of the question and what else can be asked. So like here we have the delimitation commission, and this time it was asked how many times has it been constituted. So later, in the next year they can ask something more about it. So let's see. So delimitation means the act or process of fixing the limits or boundaries of territorial constituencies in a country having legislative body. So in India, such delimitation commissions have been constituted 4 times. So here you get your answer. That the correct answer is 4. You can also try to answer it in the comment section, guys. So in 1952, under the Delimitation Commission Act, 1952, in 1963, so this was the first time. The second time, it was under the Delimitation Commission Act of 1962. Then in 1973, under the Delimitation Commission Act 1972, and the 2002 Act. So total 4 times. We will see the constitutional provisions that are there with respect to the Delimitation Commission. Because ऐसे भी हो सकता है that UPSC can ask you about the constitutional provisions with respect to the Delimitation Commission. So first of all, we have the Article 82. The Article 82 mandates the Parliament to enact a Delimitation Act and constitute Delimitation Commission after every census. So this is given in the Constitution under Article 82. Then Article 170, it provides for the division of territorial constituencies of states by the Delimitation Commission after every census. And the appointment. Okay, so these two are the constitutional provisions. Now the appointment. The Delimitation Commission is appointed by the President of India and works in collaboration with the Election Commission of India. So you remember this formula, President plus ECI. Who are the members? Retired Supreme Court judge is the chairperson, plus we have the chief election commissioner, plus we have respective state election commissioners. So these are the members of the Delimitation Commission. Okay, so what else can be asked? We can expect now, since UPSC has already asked about how many times it has been constituted. So let us deep dive through into these times. So as we saw, the first time that it was asked, it was 1953. So in 1953, that was the first Delimitation Commission. It was based on the census of 1951. So we know that after every census, we have one Delimitation Commission. And it fixed the Lok Sabha seats at 494. Okay. Next, we have the 1963 one. So this was the second Delimitation Commission. It was based on 1961 census. And in here, it increased the Lok Sabha seats from 494, which was the first Delimitation Commission. It increased that from 494 to 522. Next, we have the third Delimitation Commission, which is the 1973 one. Okay, so this was the third one. And it was based on the 1971 census. So now the seats were 522 in the second delimitation commission. So now they were increased to 543. And the assembly seats from 3,771 to 3,997. So Lok Sabha seats increased from 522 to 543, and the state legislative assembly seats were increased from 371 to 3,771 to 3,997. What one peculiar thing about this delimitation commission was the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 froze any further delimitation commission. It froze any further delimitation of constituencies for elections to Lok Sabha. Okay, so this is also very important. 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. This froze any further delimitations. Okay, until 2001 census. So why was this done? This was actually done to encourage population control measures. So इसके बाद जो भी census हो रहा था उसके बाद there was no delimitation commission again. मतलब there was no delimitation of constituencies again. It was frozen to this particular commission. Okay. Then next we have the 2002. तो इतने बड़े गैप के बाद directly we have the 2002 delimitation commission because ये पहले it was frozen. So we had no delimitations. (1981) and 1991 census. ठीक है, and this particular became the fourth delimitation commission. Based on 2001 census. Okay, यहाँ पे भी what we see is that changes in Lok Sabha seats नहीं हुए. So Lok Sabha seats not changed. Okay, जो यहाँ पे 443 seats जो हुए थे still it continued. 543, sorry. Okay, this continued. But what happened was actually readjustment of boundaries. ठीक है, तो लाइक वी नो कि डिलिमिटेशन क्या करता है, इट एडजस्ट दी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी के बाउंड्रीज. ठीक है, एंड उसके हिसाब से सपोज इतने इस बाउंड्री के अंदर इतना पॉपुलेशन है तो उस हिसाब से इट विल गिव द रिप्रेजेंटेशन. ठीक है, तो ये वाले इसमें क्या हुआ, द लोकसभा सीट्स वर नॉट चेंज्ड. ओके, सिर्फ रीएडजस्टमेंट ऑफ बाउंड्रीज हुआ. तो पहले अगर ये हुआ था देन थोड़ा सा इसको रीएडजस्ट करके प्रॉब्ली ऐसे कर दिया. ओके, इट वाज मेड इनटू 2 कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज. ओके, फिर एक और इंपॉर्टेंट बात यहाँ पे ये है कि the 84th amendment of 2002 froze any increase of seats till 2026. Okay, so this is the entire story behind the 4 delimitation commissions that were there. So in case अगर UPSC, you know, UPSC has this tendency कि वो starting में एक concept introduce करता है and then in the next subsequent prelims it goes a little deeper into that concept. So I hope that this entire concept is clear now. The next question is, the Constitution 71st Amendment Act of 1992 amends the 8th schedule to the Constitution to include which of the following languages? First, Konkani, second, Manipuri, third, Nepali, fourth, Maithili, and you have to select the correct answer. So pause this video and attempt the answer in the comments. Okay. So now we will identify the keywords. सबसे पहले we have the Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, and the other keyword is the 8th schedule. So when we are analyzing what are we supposed to know? We are supposed to know the 8th schedule plus the amendments to the 8th schedule. Okay, so let us deep down. So what is this 8th schedule? So the 8th schedule consists of the 22 languages, which are the official languages of India. Which are the 22 languages? Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Odia, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu, Bodo, Santhali, Maithili, and Dogri. Okay, these are the 22 languages that are there in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. There were, so in the beginning, when in the beginning there were not 22 languages, there were just 14 languages which were initially there in the Constitution. So how did the number increase to 22? Via constitutional amendments. Okay, of which one question was asked कि 1992 वाले constitutional amendment में which all languages were added. So in the beginning we saw कि there were just 14 languages, and amend करते करते now the count has reached to 22 languages. So we will see what all the constitution amendments that took place for the number to increase. Also, it is to be noted that there is no fixed criteria for any language to be considered for inclusion in the 8th schedule. So there is no set rules or set codes कि अगर particular language fulfills this particular criteria, so it can be added into the schedule. ऐसे कुछ नहीं है. Okay, so there are no fixed rules. So let us now go through the constitutional amendments. So first we have the 21st Amendment Act of 1967. So what this particular act do is it added Sindhi language to the 8th schedule. Okay, then we have the 71st Amendment Act of 1992, जिस पे this entire question was based. Okay, so this particular Amendment Act added Konkani, Manipuri, and Nepali languages. Okay, so this particular act added 3 languages: Konkani, Manipuri, and Nepali. So we can try to solve the question now. So we have Konkani, Manipuri, and Nepali. So the correct answer is A. Lastly, we have the 92nd Amendment Act of 2003. So this act added following languages: Bodo, Dogri, Maithili, and Santhali. Okay, so now we had the 14 original plus all these made the total count of 22. So what I mean to tell you guys is that ये question पूछ लिया है कि 71st Amendment Act में कौन से add हुए थे. So what further you can study is you can study all the acts, all the amendment acts which added the other languages for which the total became 22, and also something about the 8th schedule. So this will pave your way into predicting what else can be asked. Okay, now let us move on to the next question. Which of the following statements are correct about the Constitution of India? Powers of municipalities are given in Part 9A of the Constitution. Emergency provisions are given in Part 18 of the Constitution. Provisions related to the amendment of Constitution are given in the Part 20 of the Constitution. So basically, what keywords do we find here? The question is about the parts of the Constitution. Okay, we will try to solve this. Before that, you can just pause this video and try to answer. Otherwise, we can solve it together. Okay, now let us look at the first statement. Powers of the municipalities are given in Part 9A of the Constitution. So this is this particular statement is correct. Okay, as it was added in the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992, which this particular part has the provisions for local self-government at the urban level. Okay, so this is correct. Now second one is emergency provisions are given in the Part 18 of the Constitution. So this is also correct. Okay, emergency provisions are outlined in the Part 18 of the Constitution, covering Articles 352 to Article 360. Okay, so these provisions empower the central government to address any extraordinary situations effectively. Third, we have provisions related to the amendment of the Constitution are given in the Part 20 of the Constitution. So this is also again correct. So Part 20 deals with the amendment provisions. So the correct answer is D. Now what is important for you guys is you have to learn all of these parts, because एक बार पूछ लिया मतलब there are high chances that UPSC can ask it again. So I would suggest you can learn it in your own way, or you can use the mnemonics, because it is very easy to remember the first 4 or 5 तक तो याद रह जाता है, but after that it is a little difficult. So I suggest you that you go through this daily, morning में या मतलब whenever you're revising something, just put it on the wall, stick it somewhere on the wall and just go through, because high chances UPSC can ask these kind of questions again. ठीक है, let us move on to the next question. Which one of the following statements is correct as per the Constitution of India? Interstate trade and commerce is a state subject under the state list. Interstate migration is a state subject under the state list. Interstate quarantine is a union subject under the union list. And corporation tax is a state subject under the state list. So you can pause the video, try to answer, and also try to guess what is the crux of this question. What is the keyword? So here we have lists. UPSC is asking about the lists, or basically the 7th schedule. Okay, so we will try to understand, and then we can together solve the question. Okay, so there are the 7th schedule. Basically, of Constitution provides for 3 lists, right? What are the 3 lists? First one is the union list. It is called as the list 1. Then we have the state list, and you have the concurrent list. Okay, so what is the provision of this? Why do we have these lists? So according to Article 246 of the Constitution of India, it is the distribution of legislative powers. Okay, so it basically means कि there are certain subjects inside these lists. There will be certain subjects. So this will define who is going to legislate, who can make laws. Okay, so like we know, so it basically it enunciates the subject matters on which the legislative assemblies and the parliament have power to make laws. Okay, so article 246(1) says that the parliament has exclusive power, okay, to make laws, okay, to make any policies with respect to the matters enumerated in the list 1 of the 7 schedules, okay, which is also called as the union list. Article 246(2) says that the parliament plus the legislature of any state they have the power to make laws with respect to any matters enumerated in the list 3, which is the concurrent list. Okay. So what is a concurrent list? It serves as a tool to loosen the excessive rigidity of two-fold distribution. So when you say that if you just have this union list and state list, तो वो बहुत clear demarcation है कि ठीक है, एक watertight demarcation हो जाएगा कि ये सिर्फ union list है, ये सिर्फ state list है, ठीक है. तो what happens when there is something of central importance also, but state में भी उसका काफी importance है, ठीक है. So for that we have this middle area, so which is also as the gray area. दोनों के लिए काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो यू कांट हैव दैट रिजिड थिंग कि ये सिर्फ इट कैन नॉट बी इंटरवीन बाय एनीबॉडी एल्स, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता. ओके, देन वी हैव 246(3) article which says that legislature of any state has exclusive power with respect to the list 2, which is the state list. ठीक है. Now you can very well see here that the use of words when I say exclusive and exclusive बस 2 बार यहाँ पे हुआ है when it comes to state list and the union list. Okay, but when it comes to the concurrent list, it is not exclusive power of anyone. Okay, so thus the 7th schedule provides for 3 lists, okay, that enumerate the subject matter on which the parliament has make laws, the power to make laws. Okay, now we will see in short कि क्या क्या है. So the first list or the union list, what does it have? It has okay, so this particular list has 98 subjects and which are of national importance. Okay, so because that's why if they are of national importance, they need uniformity for the entire country. जैसे for example is defense, banking, currency, okay, union taxes. You can use your logic also. जहाँ पे for example banking, you can't have different banking laws as per the state. ठीक है, you can't have different currency as per the state. ठीक है, like that you can use your logic also and then solve the question. Next we have the state list. तो state list क्या है? State list contains 59 subjects. Okay, and जैसे ये national importance के लिए, this is for state/local importance. Okay, जैसे इसके examples क्या हो सकते हैं? Which is very niche to that particular area. जैसे public order, okay, health, agriculture, okay, for example, etc. So these are not the only ones, और भी है. Okay, for example, if we talk about agriculture, so one state is a drought prone state, so it will make policies which address that issue. एक state है जहाँ पे बारिश बहुत होती है, ठीक है, so it will make policies addressing that issue. Okay, public order also. Each state has different kind of public order. Law and order uska depend karta hai, the kind of state, I mean the kind of problems it faces. Lastly, we have the list 3, which is the concurrent list. It contains 52 subjects. Okay, और इसमें legislation का किसका power है? दोनों का है, both the parliament plus state legislative assembly. Okay, and it is also called as the twilight zone. The states can take initiative for the important matters, also the parliament can. Okay, now we will try to solve this question. Okay, here it says that interstate trade and commerce is a state subject under the state list. So you can use your logic here. Is this possible? Trade and commerce है. Okay, ऐसे हो सकता है कि one state is making one, even if you think कि हाँ ये सही है, तो क्या होगा? One state is having one rule, other state might have some other rule, तो interstate नहीं हो सकता, correct? It will not be smooth, so this is wrong. Second, interstate migration is a state subject under the state list. Again, this is migration is a national importance. Okay, national issue है. So again, different states will have different policies. तो ये भी सही नहीं हो सकता. Interstate quarantine is a union subject under the union list. So this is correct है ना? Logically भी ये सही लग रहा है, because interstate, if you're doing something, union has to play a picture, because when you're saying interstate, two states come in picture. Okay, at least 2 states come in picture. Okay, so one state will say कि हम quarantine इतना दिन का लगाएंगे, some other state is saying हम quarantine इतना दिन का लगाएंगे. It will be a lot of chaos. So this is correct. Okay, last one, corporation tax is a state subject under the state list. So we saw कि taxes, corporation tax खाली एक state में हो सकता है क्या? नहीं, ठीक है. So this is also incorrect. So this will give you your correct answer. So if your this concept is entirely clear, you can come to this conclusion when your this particular thing is clear. Okay, you need to do some और भी थोड़ा सा deep dive करना पड़ेगा इसमें, but I'm just giving you this entire nutshell concept. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Under which of the following articles of the Constitution of India has the Supreme Court of India placed the right to privacy? Pause the video and try to answer the question. ठीक है, so the correct answer is Article 21. तो Article 21 is very very favorite of UPSC. बहुत बार UPSC पूछा है UPSC ने question regarding Article 21, उसके applications, court cases around it. So I'm going to advise you to deep dive थोड़ा करो इसमें and read जो भी judgments है, everything. Okay, so we will see in nutshell what Article 21 is. So Article 21 of the Constitution of India guarantees the fundamental right to protection and of life and personal liberty. Okay, it is one of the most significant and broadly interpreted provisions, serving as a shield against arbitrary actions of the states or individuals. This article asserts that no person shall be deprived of their life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. Very important. Ensuring the sanctity of individual existence and freedom from unlawful detention. This right is available to both citizens and non-citizens. So Article 21 जो है, it is a very umbrella article. Okay, why do I say that? Because इसके अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. Just imagine. So okay, this is umbrella. तो इसके अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, जैसे कि if I talk about for example, okay, right to livelihood, that is under Article 21. Right to shelter, right to health, right to free legal aid, right against speedy trial, right against right to decent environment. Okay, right of women to be treated with decency. Everything that you can think of, जो आपको दिख रहा है कि it should have a connotation of life and liberty, basically personal life and liberty. इसके connotation में जो fit होगा, everything comes under Article 21. ठीक है. So what is important for us is we will see certain landmark cases. Okay. Oh, before that, एक और thing we came across is procedure established by law. This also has come in UPSC far too many times. Okay, what is understood by procedure established by law? So this we have borrowed. Sorry. this thing has been borrowed from the Japanese constitution. ठीक है? So what does this thing say? It says that the validity of a law that has prescribed a procedure cannot be questioned on the ground that the law is unreasonable, unfair or unjust. ठीक है? इसके oppose में we have something called as the due process of law, which is an American concept. ठीक है? What does this say? This is a doctrine that not only checks if there is a law to deprive the life and liberty, personal liberty of a person, but also ensures that the law is made fair and just. So this particular thing is more fairer than this. Okay, so this is fairer and this is not as fair. Okay, so if your law says something, it must be correct. ये इसका basically इसका meaning क्या है कि अगर law में लिखा गया है तो वो correct है. But what does due process of law says? कि ठीक है law में तो लिखा है, okay, but it should be fair. Only then it is correct. Okay, now let us see क्या क्या आ सकता है. So I've given you this list. इसको भी एक काम करो आप, you just write it down somewhere or take a screenshot of this and paste it somewhere so that you can go through this. जैसे because like I said कि it is a very umbrella term and इसमें कुछ भी आ सकता है, जैसे right to live with human dignity, decent environment, okay, free water, pollution free water, privacy, shelter, health, free education, free legal aid, ये सब. So there are around 38 things. तो ये क्या है, मतलब ये कोर्ट से दिया हुआ है. Okay, with each case court comes up with something that has been given. So we will see some of the landmark cases. First we have the Gopalan case of 1950. Okay, so क्या हुआ था? First of all, protection under Article 21 is available against arbitrary executive action and not from arbitrary legislative action. So here क्या बोला था? Here Supreme Court said कि protection है, protection is there but only for executive actions. Okay, not for legislative actions. What do you mean by this? इसका मीनिंग ये है कि सपोज देयर इज सम आर्बिट्ररी एग्जीक्यूटिव एक्शन, आर्बिट्ररी एज इन विदाउट एनी लॉ, मतलब which does not have legal backing, ऐसे कुछ तो, ठीक है. So if that kind of executive action है, then you can get protection, but सिर्फ legislative action है, then you have no protection. So here what we saw was there was a narrow interpretation of Article 21. Okay, then next we have the landmark case called as the Maneka Gandhi case of 1978. ठीक है, यहाँ पे this was the time when this concept was introduced, due process of law. I just explained this, so I hope that you are clear. Okay, so this concept was introduced and protection under Article 21 should be available not only against arbitrary executive action but also against arbitrary legislative action. तो ये जो दिया गया था, जो गोपालन केस में ये वाला जो concept दिया था कि only for executive actions not for legislative action, this was cancelled. Okay, so now protection किसको दे रहे थे? For both. Protection, I'll write arbitrary here, against arbitrary executive plus legislative actions. Okay, यहाँ पे what we saw here, यहाँ पे there was a wider interpretation. Okay, जैसे again a few more concepts were also given, जैसे कि right to life, which means right to live with human dignity. Okay, then the right to personal liberty. So this has the widest amplitude. Why do I say that? Because anything can be personal liberty. Correct. It covers a variety of rights that constitute as the personal liberty. They say all these things are personal liberty, right? Shelter, health, education, ये सब personal liberty है. So it is very wide. So here we saw a very wide representation of Article 21. The next case is, this is also a very important case, KS Puttaswamy case of 2017. So what was इसका मतलब इसका main concept क्या था? It held that privacy is a natural right. And that it inheres all natural persons, and that right may be restricted only by state if it passes each of 3 tests. ठीक है, तो एक natural right है and restriction तो है, ठीक है, you can put restrictions if, ठीक है, if the state action has a legislative mandate. It must be pursuing a legitimate state purpose. And finally, it must be proportionate. ठीक है? So there were some conditions put on the state actions which restrict the right to privacy. Okay. Finally, we have the fourth one, which is the Hadia case of 2017 again. In here, the Supreme Court held that the person's right to marry a person of their choice is integral part of Article 21, which is the right to life and liberty. So right to marry of one's choice. This was also asked in your UPSC 2019. That's why it is important. Okay. So this basically covers up what is important with respect to your Article 21. This please go through, क्योंकि एक और भी कुछ भी आ सकता है. They can ask anything. They can say right to family pension comes under which purview of which article. Okay, so with this you know it comes under the purview of Article 21. Okay, so I hope that you have liked this series that we've started, guys, because here we are not just analyzing the questions that have been previously asked. We are going one step beyond it. Okay, because it is a very well-known fact that UPSC doesn't just repeat question in the form of just verbatim. ऐसे नहीं कि last year ये पूछा था, next year उसी के around कुछ same सा पूछ लेंगे. नहीं, it takes that concept, उसके थोड़ा सा deep जाता है probably, या कोई एक option होगा उसी में से, जो wrong option होगा उसका एक next year एक और question बन जाता है. So that's why this is our this is the thing that we are doing is just a work towards making you better at your game of UPSC Prelims. And baki ka we'll do in the next lecture. Thank you. Join if you like this series. Please like, subscribe, and share this video among your friends, whoever is preparing for UPSC. And please join Strive Edge IS. Thank you so much.